What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is September 11th of 2023. And before we get started, I want to... Oh, sorry, just having some trouble. Looks like Rumble, I might not be live streaming too, and I apologize for that, but the video will be up on Rumble afterwards. So the first thing I want to say is we must remember those individuals who we lost 22 years ago on September 11th of 2001. Those individuals were sacrificed, unfortunately, for evil means, and I'm sure that everyone now knows that. It's been long enough. But it's a travesty that happened to us, and it was the beginning of the world changing. 2001 ushered in the Patriot Act and a 20-year war with Afghanistan, and all of that was awful for not just America, but for the world. And so rest in peace to those individuals. But I'm going to move on to talk about what's going on in Michigan with the mega sites. I have updates on Gotion and Marshall. I have a lot of events that we all need to be aware of as Michiganders. Especially there's one today and one tomorrow that are really important for the mega sites in particular. I have information about Whitmer for president. Once again, it's just the calls for her to become president just keep coming up in all of the alternative spaces, and even some of the more mainstream like the Atlantic and the New York Times. So she is a possible contender, whether or not she admits it. And that is also a very scary prospect. Whitmer is a tyrant, and she will use executive orders to further government power. She's done it. She's doing it now. Which brings us to the septic tank issue that I want to share with you guys. I'm sure you see it on the thumbnail. Really important to understand that what they're trying to do there is, again, it's about private property. The government would be able to come inspect your private property whenever they decide. They have to make up the rules, but very scary prospect there as well. A lot of things happening, but I don't want you to be afraid. Faith over fear, always. But these are things that we need to be aware of, and we need to talk to our neighbor about, because this will affect us, us normal people that don't live in Washington or Lansing. So I'm going to get into the meetings first, and like I said, I have a ton to share with you. I hope that you learn something new. That's always the goal. Let's present. So first up, we're going to go with the events. So Monday Township board meeting tonight at 7, and Vernon Township monthly meeting tonight at 7 as well. It's really important, the Vernon Township monthly meeting, they're trying to show a really big presence there. So if you can show up, please do. I know it's tonight, so hopefully you see this before it happens. Tomorrow, Monday Township Planning Commission at 6 p.m. Please show up for that if you're in that area. And extremely important for the Gotion project, Green Charter Township monthly board meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, September 12th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. People are asking, the community is asking that people show up at 6 if you can, so that we can get together and see what's going on. Some weird things happened, allegedly. I wasn't there last time. There were people that showed up at 6 and the doors were locked. And if that's the case, that's against the Open Meetings Act. According to this person, the doors were locked and there were individuals, students that are pro-Gotion, were inside. Now, this is all allegedly. I don't have any receipts. I can't prove it. But this is one of the reasons why we want to show up a little early and try to hold these people accountable. They seem to be doing some shady stuff, which is the understatement of the year. So if you can, show up. You could talk to your neighbors. We're going to be very cordial. You're going to hopefully show up and, use your voice respectfully. Optics are extremely important. They will use any kind of emotion against you if you are against Gotion. The tactics are the norm for bullies. Government the pro-government people are on the side of the establishment. It's just the way it is. And it's okay that you're pro-Gotion, but the tactics that are being used are not okay. So once again, everybody, pro-Gotion and no-Gotion, these are your neighbors. So try to respect each other, even if you don't agree, and try to understand where your neighbor is coming from. And do not shy away from facts just because they don't fit your narrative. But I digress. I am going to come down here and show you September 13th, a Marshall Mega Site protest. I will be there, by the way, tomorrow at the Green Charter Township meeting, so I hope to see you there. Again, respect your neighbor, love your neighbor as thyself. I should know the quote before I try, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So it's really important, though, that no Gotion side shows up in force at the meeting tomorrow, because the meeting prior, they showed up in force for the pro-Gotion, so we need to make sure we're representing. I know that it's been a long time. People have been going to meeting after meeting. We need to continue, though. This fight is a long one, okay? This is not a marathon. Sorry, this is not a sprint. It is a marathon. So, meetings, September 13th, and then we have September 16th. We have a Marshall weekly protest meeting. Durand City Council meeting. This is important. September 18th, 6:30 to 8. The agenda is here on the site, and I will have this link down below. The MEDC board meeting. I will be live streaming it using OBS because StreamYard won't do it. I've learned my lesson now. It only took 2 times. So I'm sorry for that, but that should be live streamed September 19th. And Mecosta County Building and Zoning Committee on September 21st at 10:30 a.m. So we're going to switch over to this. It's really important that you contact your representative, all Michiganders. And I want to say this too. I talk a lot about Michigan, and that's only because I'm using Michigan as an example of something that's happening all over the United States and all over the world. So if you're not from Michigan, please stick around. I have a lot of information that does affect you, and maybe it will help you understand how exactly these things are being implemented and why, as far as the Green New Deal and all the things that I talk about in my videos. So it's not just for Michigan, but I use Michigan as an example. So please stick around even if you are not from Michigan. So coming down here, and I'm almost done with the specific Michigan meetings. You come down here and all of the senators that you should contact or want to contact are listed, and their email address, everything, made it nice and easy. Thank you, Marjorie Steele, the founder of Economic Development Responsibility Alliance of Michigan. A great central place for information. And she came and posted up a letter template about the zoning. So the zoning is the newest thing that they are trying to do to Michiganders, and that is stop local township boards from having say in whether or not wind turbines and solar farms come to your county or township, because the central government doesn't like that we are stopping these solar farms and these wind turbines using the township. The little bit of power that we, the people, have left is the township boards. And so if there are anybody that's pro-wind in an area that does not want wind turbines, those board members have been being recalled, and people that are not pro-wind have been put in their place. This is how it's supposed to work. If this is your area, your local government should be working for you. And if they're not, then they should be recalled and put somebody in that does work for what you, the people in that area, want. Whitmer wants to get rid of that and bypass that, and she's trying to use permitting in order to do it. So take action, keep zoning legal. Governor Whitmer is expected to call for, she has, that was on Wednesday last week, called for legislation that would remove local government control over the wind and solar permitting process. And she did an executive order, I believe, last Thursday on the permitting process. So they are moving very quickly, trying to steamroll local opposition. That's what they're doing. Thank you guys, by the way, for joining me. I really appreciate it. Please smash like if you learned anything new, and subscribe if you haven't already. So we're going to come over here, and Heather Dow, Patriot Post Girl, I highly recommend you follow her on Twitter. She's got a lot going on with digging up these bills and all these different things that are going on with the government. She does a very good job, in my opinion, and she's sounding the alarm on these two bills right here, which you absolutely, when you are contacting them about zoning for wind and solar energy, contact them about these two as well, because it will require every rural home to secure a $2,500 permit for their septic system, which will be followed by a $500 routine inspection every 5 years. So $100 a year for you to have a septic, and $2,500 just to get that permit. They're trying to, force us into the cities by making it too expensive to live out in the country? Maybe. But these are the two bills. I will have this linked below as well so that you can look into it for yourself and read for yourself exactly what they're trying to do. Now, the big thing is this also will have inspections. I don't know if it's yearly or every 5 years, but there will be inspections where a government agent will come onto your yard, your private property, and inspect your septic, and you can't say anything about that. That sound like it's really a good idea to you? I don't think that people in the country want this kind of oversight. That's why they live in the country. But that's exactly what the big government doesn't like. They want you to be included. Nobody left behind. Everybody left behind, really. All right, so we're going to move over here. This article is out of Bridge, Michigan. Whitmer pushes clean energy paid leave in Michigan, offers few specifics, right? Not going to share how they're going to do this, just sharing this is what's going to happen. This is the end goal, and it doesn't matter what it takes to get there. We will get to this end goal. I'm going to come down just to the solar wind permits moved to state. Whitmer backed pending Democratic legislation that would move permitting for larger wind and solar projects to the Michigan Public Service Commission rather than municipal boards, where local opposition has delayed or derailed several developments. Right, so they don't like what we're doing, so they're just going to bypass us. How in the hell is that right? Critics contend that the Democratic plan would strip control from local officials who know their communities best. But Whitmer argued that proposed state process would ensure local perspectives are reflected in the planning process, while also allowing us to move faster on the installation. Basically, she wants it to be like Gotion. We can say everything that we want, and allegedly our perspectives are being reflected, but the planning process is moving very fast. I don't understand how anyone would be for this, but Whitmer has claimed that over 60% of Michiganders are completely for this. Like, I wasn't polled. Were you polled? How do you get over 60% if I wasn't polled and I'm a Michigander? Oh, right. Polls are bullshit. It should be easier to create jobs and build wind and solar projects. Let's permit clean energy projects through the MPSC, just like all sources of energy, the governor said. So there you have it, trying to force her way, and that's why, one of the many reasons why when people say she should be president, I'm flabbergasted. Like, really? You like big government? And I guess it's just some people like less choices. I guess. I try to understand the other side. I really do. I want to understand my neighbor that doesn't agree with me. But there are certain things that it's so difficult for me to understand. Why would you be okay with them going around the local townships? This is our home, our voice. It's a group on Facebook, and they say maintaining local control of zoning, wind and solar. Here's an email that I received from a planning commission member this Sunday morning. This is great advice for anyone reading this post, but is particularly good advice for any township officials reading this. I've contacted my local county commissioner asking her to notify as many of her county township contacts as possible, including those up the political chain, who would be on board to help the cause. That's another thing. Please show up to your township boards. Doesn't matter if you're part of a township like Green Charter that has a mega site. show up and let them know that you don't want this septic and the septic thing going on, these bills, and you do not want the zoning permits to change for solar and wind. We want to maintain that power here in the township, and they should have a vested interest to maintain that power as well, unless they're working for somebody other than us. Coming over here, Great Lakes Water Infrastructure Conference coming to Kalamazoo September 19th to the 22nd. I should put myself down here. There we go. August 30th, this was posted. You have to register today, okay? 2 pre-conference workshops on September 19th on cybersecurity for the water sector and chemical storage and reporting for water and wastewater. Networking opportunities with hundreds of professionals on water, exhibitors of innovative technology, expert speakers putting solutions into place. September 19th to the 21st, in Kalamazoo. Save money and register, but it's too late. September 11th. So today you need to register. I'll have it linked below. And I think the price I have right here. So full rate $250, daily rate $125. So I know that's a little expensive and it's last minute. So I'm sorry, I just found it. But if you have time and money and you want to understand what is going on with our water, like first, what they're trying to do, what they're looking to implement, then please show up to this meeting. All right, coming down here, we have Consumers Energy investigates potential sale of dams in Michigan. I've discussed this already, but I'm going to come down here. The initial RFP will be for the sale of all 13 hydroelectric dams to one owner, but they will look at all options proposed by potential buyers. The Muskegon River Watershed Assembly Executive Director Scott Faulkner, who Gotioners are familiar with, said they will continue to be approachable. There will continue to be an approachable forum for stakeholders, which is all of us. Stakeholders is replaced with shareholder, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but especially on the most dramatic economic, environmental, and cultural impact that will likely ever happen to the communities on Rogers Pond in Mecosta County and Hardy and Croton Ponds in Newaygo County, which is absolutely true. Unfortunately, I do think that Rogers Dam will be taken out, but I'm going to pray for it not to be, because obviously that would devastate the area and all the homes that are on that pond. So I am praying that we get to keep our dams and we can just upgrade them, as we should have done already. Dams are really important for many reasons, and we just copied the beaver. So it's not like it is not natural to dam up water, okay? We could do fish ladders and have the fish be able to go up the ladder. Why not do that? Dragonfly, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Family, I made it back. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan was beautiful. Man, I'm just a little bit jealous that you got to go up there and enjoy the beauty up there. A lot of wilderness. Hopefully the bugs weren't too bad. Like I said, I'm not sure with when the bugs are good or bad up there, but I'm glad you had a great time, and I'm glad you're home safe. Thank you again for hanging out. In the MRWA's view, competing dynamics must be balanced and options carefully weighed in order for potentially positive outcomes to be envisioned. MRWA is committed to working with these watershed communities and with our agency, government, and tribal partners in developing real options that might greatly limit or prevent catastrophic economic damage and also provide for the restoration of a healthy watershed, he continued. This has been done successfully with other dams and impoundments on other watersheds around the country, and it can happen here on our beloved Muskegon, but it will not be easy. Public sector consultant Maggie Pallone told those in attendance that Consumers Energy was looking at several options regarding the future of the dam, which included relicensing for another 30 years, selling the dam to a third party, replacing the dam with an alternative structure that would maintain the impoundment, or removing the dam and allowing the natural flow of the river to return. Coming down here, Consumers Energy will continue to meet with the impacted communities throughout the year. A meeting for the Croton and Hardy dams will be held on September 18th at the Newaygo High School cafeteria, and a meeting in Rogers Dam will be held October 16th at Fair State University. Doors will be open at 5:30 and the meeting will be at 6. Please show up to that, especially if you're on the Muskegon, or just enjoy the Muskegon River when you come up for Hot Boat Weekend and such. This will affect you. If it's sold to someone private, if it's sold to China, if it's, who is it going to be sold to? What's going to happen to it? So we should be aware of what's going on there. And again, hold people accountable. We have to wake the massive population up, and we're going to focus on Michiganders. Detroit Smart Parking Lab. I wanted to discuss this really quick. This is Michigan announces new funding for Detroit Smart Parking Lab grant winners to diversify charging infrastructure. This is all about how our money is being spent. I'm just going to actually focus on this one. Crone AI will receive $30,000 to test and showcase their next generation 3D sensor perception software, utilizing deep learning to deliver previously unseen levels of quality of detection and classification. The company aims to enable autonomy through infrastructure, enhance vehicle to everything communication, and improve safety. This is about data. So we are once again giving our money, a lot of money, to companies that want to figure out how best to take all the data that they've collected and to move it as fast as they can between all of the companies and corporations that want that information. And this brings us over to this. This is the garage right here. Sorry if you hear my dog. He's playing with his toy, and he can be a little noisy about that. So this garage is being used to basically test all of the different technologies that they want to put on cars, so that when you enter a parking garage in the city, the car will talk to some kind of data box, right? Internet of Things, and will translate when exactly you came in, when you leave. And so it's just, again, more data. They will know everything about you, and all wirelessly and without your consent. You go into a garage, I guess that is you consenting. You're going into their parking garage. But you go into the garage and they will know when you got there, when you left, where you parked, and they'll be able to charge you accordingly. So it's going to be a hell of a surveillance world that we have built with our own money if we allow this to continue. Coming over here, this is the Michigan Future Mobility Plan. Pretty enlightening. Come down here. Lead the world of mobility and electrification policy and innovation. Maintain #1 state ranking for mobility. Become a top 10 state for growth in venture capital funding by 2026. Become a top 10 state for federal investments related to mobility and vehicle electrification. And lead the nation in electric and automated vehicle friendliness. I forgot exactly what I wanted to really hit home here, but perhaps I already have, and that is why. Basically, it's about data and our money going towards something that the demand isn't even there, right? We're not asking for this. They are pushing it anyway. Good morning, Connie. Thank you for joining me. It is sprinkling here. Hopefully it's nicer weather down there. All right, so we're going to go over here. Uh-oh. Now, there is some mistake that I've made. I have so much information. Some of it gets a little bit mixed up. I'm sorry. So representatives share concerns for bills making Michigan wholly dependent on solar and wind power by 2030. This is Michigan News Source. It just came out on September 7th. What's next? Large general ideas are the oldest smokescreens in big system politics, St. Germain said. Saying we should switch from fossil fuels to more sustainable alternatives is one thing. It's quite another to come up with a plan. I always listen for specifics in these speeches, and she offered very little. This is, of course, talking about the speech that she made saying we need 100% renewables. No funding plan. Nothing to ensure grid reliability. Just a dream that appeases the environmental lobby. At the end of the day, she has no regard for how this will impact families or businesses in our community. Right. They are saying that they want to lower energy prices, but at the same time, they are switching off all of the fossil fuel, like coal plants, and they want to minimize or get rid of gas. So they're trying to get rid of these things, but they do not have the supply with solar and wind. So supply and demand would say that prices are going to go up. So again, they're not ignorant. They know how it works. They're just lying and saying that the prices are going to go down, but they're not. They're going to freaking skyrocket. Lakes health depends on decarbonization. Here's the one I was looking for. Michigan and the Great Lakes already feel the effects of changing climate. Warmer waters feed bacteria and toxic algal blooms. I'm going to show you something that I was just amazed that I found on geoengineering. It is a real thing. It's happening all the time. Bill Gates just funded this company that is trying to block out the sun. I'm going to show you proof. But how do we know that that's not what is causing these algae blooms and that's toxic and this bacteria? Like, we're just blaming it on climate change. It's crazy. Disrupted ecosystems displace native species and make invaders feel at home. Extreme rain events cause sewer overflows and generate sediment-filled runoff. What are extreme rain events? You see how everything is being like weaponized against us? Like extreme rain. We've always had heavy rains in Michigan. Like now it's really fear-mongering bull. That's what it is. But the fact that they are saying anything about disrupted ecosystems and they're trying to push these wind turbines, again, the whale population, right here, I'm going to show you this. The desert tortoise deaths raise concerns as solar farms solve energy need. They're not solving anything. The desert tortoise is on the endangered species list, and you're not supposed to mess with them. $50,000 fine if you touch them. Try to help them across the road because they'll let their water out and then they'll die. The desert tortoise is heavily protected, and yet the solar farms have destroyed their habitat. The biodiversity loss because of solar farms and wind turbines is catastrophic. So you see, it's right there in their own speeches, in their own words. They're hypocrites, they're liars. And we have to be aware that they're gaslighting us and they're manipulating us and they're trying to get us to just believe their bull. And we have to be aware. Large general ideas. Yes, I already said that one. Look at this. This is what we're putting. This is what's in the desert over in the Mojave Desert, destroying the desert tortoise. And this right here is what is destroying the whales and the biodiversity that's in the Eastern Ocean, on the east coast of America. Not the Eastern Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean on the east side. Sorry. So, huge red flags if you actually are willing to look into it. They talk about indigenous populations as well, which always drives me crazy because the indigenous populations are absolutely being destroyed. Argentina's lithium is at the heart of tensions with indigenous communities. The lithium mining that's going on over there, they're fighting it tooth and nail, just like we're fighting the EV batteries over here. These people don't care what they want or what we want, and that's why we need to care about what they want and what we want. No one's going to save us but ourselves. We need to save ourselves, and we can. First step is awareness. Here's another one. Argentina's indigenous people cross country to protest provincial constitutional reform allowing increased mining. This just happened August 3rd. So they're constantly saying, please don't do this. Nobody's listening. They're increasing their mining. But these are indigenous populations that allegedly our government cares about. I'm bouncing all around. I apologize for that, but I just, again, have so much to share. So coming over here, the Michigan Healthy Plan, Climate Plan, aims to accelerate Michigan's transition to a carbon-neutral economy, capturing new economic opportunities and protecting our natural lands and waters. Governor Gretchen Whitmer called for the plan in 2020. Again, the year the Great Reset begun, although some argue that it began really in 2001. The Patriot Act, again, changed the world. Setting a goal of economy-wide carbon neutrality by 2050 to fuel a clean energy economy and avert the worst impacts of climate change. Again, where did they come up with 2050? After a process gathering input from hundreds of Michiganders, the Office of Climate and Energy in the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy presented the plan in April 2022, calling for an ambitious action plan, including 60% renewable energy goals and retirement of coal-burning plants, infrastructure to support 2 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030, a commitment that will also drive investments in infrastructure to clean maritime transportation at Michigan's ports and harbors. 17% emission reduction from Michigan's buildings by 2030, with a strong focus on home repairs such as investments in water infrastructure. This coincides with Biden's water initiatives that he just put forth recently. And that is because the United Nations has declared this a decade for water too. And I should have pulled that up. But yes, the United Nations is focusing on water, and that is where Biden and Whitmer are getting their freaking plans. I also wanted to say this, the commitment basically to have EV boats and charging station for electric vehicle or electric boats. Like, I just can't imagine the devastation that would cause. A boat starts on fire and then ends up on the bottom of Lake Michigan or the bottom of the river. You know, it's like, isn't that pollution? And the chances of that happening are high. 2 boats filled with EVs, luxury EVs, 2 of them have sunk to the bottom of the ocean with tons of vehicles because one started on fire randomly. Salt water causes reactions with EV batteries. Florida right now dealing with any EV battery that touched any vehicle that got flooded out. You cannot put it in your house. You could burn to death at night and it just start on fire randomly. It's crazy. But the whole point is not for all of us to have an electric vehicle. And so this is another thing that I really want to stress to everybody in this video. They do not want to build enough infrastructure for 2 billion people to have electric vehicles. That's not the plan. So when people are like, there's no way, there's not enough lithium in the world to have everybody have a car, they don't want everybody to have a car. They want enough vehicles in the mega cities for a shared communal experience. You don't own a private car. And I'm going to get into all that. One more thing I wanted to point out here. A couple of things, actually. Protecting 30% of Michigan's land and water by 2030. This is part of the America the Beautiful challenge that Biden implemented, which is just another rebrand of the Wildlands Project, where humans are corralled in the cities outside of the rural areas to bring back wildlife and predators and all that. No humans allowed. That's part of what's going on there. So they're not calling it America the Beautiful, but it's the same goal. So it's the same initiative. Dragonfly, thank you for all the info on the battery plant opening in Independence. I researched it. Yep, it's here in Independence. Yes, I do have a little bit more information on what's going on in Illinois and the governor there. So, man, you and I, we're close in several ways, not just state, but our governors too, and Gotion. And we have a lot going on that's very similar. And I'm glad that you're here. This is good info. My husband works at the municipalities as a sewer supervisor. Yes. Yep. He's going to be frontline on all the stuff that's going on. There's a lot going on. Recognizing that the fossil fuel economy disproportionately harms Indigenous communities. There it is. I highlighted that because it's the fossil fuel economy. But we're talking about lithium mining. That's not the fossil fuel economy. Although it really is, because EV batteries take coal power and, fossil fuel power. It's just you're putting like a barrier there, a buffer, to pretend that you're not using fossil fuels when you're charging your EV battery, but you're using fossil fuels. And all the wind turbines, they're on trucks, okay? Fossil fuels. The economic ecosystem surrounding the Great Lakes also offers other opportunities to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the plan, with a capital P, the plan. I know that allegedly they're talking about the Healthy Michigan Climate Plan, but the real plan is Agenda 21, such as outfitting Michigan's harbors and ports with charging infrastructure for electric watercraft. There it is. Sounds devastating. I mean, what about getting electrocuted, little shocks here and there? I don't know. I'm very skeptical because not only is all this bull, but everything now is made really crappy. Don't you see? I mean, I'm sure you see. Everything it's not made like it used to be. It's not made to last. And people don't have pride in what they do anymore either. So when they are making the thing, they don't give a crap, which is another reason I won't go on roller coasters. Used to go on roller coasters all the time. Won't go anywhere. That people just don't care like they used to. So I'm not going to go on a roller coaster, but that's neither here nor there. Example, the port of Monroe sends wind turbine towers across the globe via companies like Monroe-based Vent Tower Industries. Implementing the plan will reduce emissions from Michigan ports and harbors. Yeah, right. Moving on. Governor Whitmer signs law allowing Michigan to pass stricter environmental rules. The new law reverses 2018 state law, also known as the no stricter than federal policy, that limited state authority, not allowing Michigan to set more stringent rules than the federal government in most cases. Now, don't get me wrong, that sounds really stupid. You know, the separation, the states are in charge of everything except for what was laid out in the Constitution for the Fed. So this kind of gives the Fed too much power, in my opinion. However, Whitmer is not to be trusted with more power either. And since she's in charge of her state, it's a lose-lose. But I am for getting rid of government regulation. So I'm a little conflicted by this. Of course, this is going to be dangerous potentially because it's Whitmer that's in charge. But again, I don't really like that the Fed would have more control. That's the same reason why I agree with Roe v. Wade being overturned to the states. It never should have been a federal issue based on what the Constitution actually says. However, the timing was perfect for Democrats. Timing was perfect. Supporters of the Snyder-era law have long argued that if the state adopted rules far more stringent than the national standard, it would risk discouraging investments and bring uncertainty for companies subject to those rules. Right. It'll just help her pick winners and losers a lot easier. Allowing the state to apply further restrictions, she said, would give unelected bureaucrats more power with less justification and accountability to both legislators and taxpayers, including small business owners. So there's the downside of it. Environmental groups and Democrats have said the 2018 law restricted the state's ability to rein in certain types of chemical pollution, for which the federal government doesn't have a standard. I call bull. I don't think that's the real reason, but it sure sounds good, doesn't it? Of course, I would like chemical pollution to be reined in, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. But hey, I would love to be pleasantly surprised. Switching over, Joe Biden, this was just on September 7th, so just a few days ago. We're canceling all remaining oil and gas leases issued under the previous administration in the Arctic Refuge and protecting more than 13 million acres in the Western Arctic. As the climate crisis warms the Arctic, we have a responsibility to protect this treasured region for all ages. This will obviously hurt poor people because energy prices are going to skyrocket, and rich people don't care because they can afford it, and poor people will be demolished. And that is what happens. That's what happens. This is a snidbit that I found from 1896. And I want to put this here because it's really sad what happened to Nikola Tesla. He wanted to give the world free energy, and he died poor and alone thanks to J.P. Morgan. Nikola Tesla's amazing plan to harness free currents. because he knew how the world really worked. The world is on the eve of an astounding revelation. The conditions under which we exist will be changed. The end has come to telegraph and telephone monopolies with a crash. Incidentally, all the other monopolies that depend on power of any kind will come to a sudden stop. The earth currents of electricity are to be harnessed. Nature supplies them free of charge. The cost of power, of light and heat, will be practically nothing. Now, of course, people like J.P. Morgan and Carnegie and all those industrialists back in the day that helped create the Federal Reserve and brought in income tax and all this crap that we have going on, they stopped him from giving us free energy. They stopped him. And so I wanted to share that. I didn't know if you knew that or not. I do not like Elon Musk stealing Tesla's name. Nikola Tesla was a real genius, and he wanted to give the free energy to the world, and it is possible. It's just that we don't really understand where we live, and so we don't know how to harness it. But you think our government doesn't know? And we could have free energy, but then that would be a lot of power given to the people, and they don't want that. I'm going to show you what they do want right here. This is out of their own mouth, this individual, and I hope that you can read it because it is in a different language.
Die uitstootrechten verdelen en dat elk huishouden of elke burger een hoeveelheid uitstootrechten krijgt, zodat we opgeteld niet meer uitstoten dan onze grens.
I'm sorry, I'm going to read it. This individual, let's ensure that every household or every citizen in the Netherlands receives a certain amount of carbon emission rights.
Die uitstootrechten verdelen en dat elk huishouden of elke burger een hoeveelheid uitstootrechten krijgt, zodat we opgeteld.
This way, we can ensure that we do not emit more than our yearly limit.
Niet meer uitstoten dan onze grens. Vervolgens kunnen
your emission rights will be stored in a carbon wallet.
Het zit in een carbon wallet, kan je dat noemen?
Kan je bijkopen.
Ja, en dan kan je, als ik
So, if I want to fly, I buy some carbon emission rights from someone who can't afford to fly, for example.
wil vliegen, koop van iemand die niet gaat vliegen, omdat hij daar bijvoorbeeld geen geld voor heeft. Die verkoopt aan mij zijn carbon uitstoot.
This way, this poor person can earn some extra money. Do you like
rechten en krijgt daardoor een beetje meer geld. Of diegene woont in.
Or if someone lives in a small house, he can sell his emission rights to someone who lives in a big house. This way, poor people can benefit from the green economy. This is how you're going to benefit. You won't be able to do anything. You won't be able to leave your house. But you can sell your emission rights to rich people so they can leave their house. They can go outside of the 15-minute city as many times as they want. Again, they don't care. They can pay. They can pay to offset their carbon.
In een kleiner huurhuis en ik woon in een groot huis. Ik heb dus meer uitstootrechten nodig om mijn huis te verwarmen. En zo kunnen mensen met een smalle portemonnee ook iets verdienen aan vergroening.
Okay. And that individual, the World Economic Forum agenda contributor and CEO of Rabo Carbon Bank, or Rabo Carbon Bank, Barbara Barsma, outlines the neo-feudal nature of an incoming personal carbon allowance system. That is exactly what they're trying to do. And that's why we have to ask the fundamental, the root of the root question. Prove that carbon is bad. Prove that we need all this crap that you guys are talking about. You can't. In fact, I'm going to do a story on 16,000 scientists, real scientists, that have said that the climate emergency is 100% fake. It's a lie. And they're doing it to manipulate us and to push their agendas. And we need to be aware of this. Majority of Michiganders support clean energy proposals, and what's next? I wanted to share this because it's, again, lies. These are lies. A majority of people, Michiganders, would not support these bills if they really understood what the hell was going on. And if people were really asked, I don't think they were really asked. Lowering costs for families and small businesses. I point this out because I'm about to show you that they've just agreed to raise prices. Both DTE and Consumers Energy are raising prices, one starting October 1st and the other at the end of the year. So our energy prices are not going to go down the more our supply is lowered and our demand stays the same or increases because we're adding electric vehicles to it. That's going to raise the price. To protect our air and water for future generations, while creating jobs, lowering costs, and enhancing reliability, we need to expand domestic energy production, drive down costs for consumers, reduce our reliance on foreign energy, and create good-paying manufacturing jobs along the way. Again, we're not reducing our reliance on foreign energy because we're allowing China to come build here. So we're still going to be reliant upon them. Come down here, 61% of Michiganders support moving Michigan to a 100% clean energy electricity grid, including 60% of independents. A plurality of Michiganders wants the legislator to do more to address climate change. Like these, and this is a poll that was taken in April of 2023. And this is all, you know, it justifies what they're doing. So that's why they're telling you this. Come down here, 65% of Michiganders support cutting red tape and streamlining the process for permitting renewable energy, such as wind and solar, so that local communities can generate more tax revenue and provide services to residents. This is such bullshit. So you're saying 65% of Michiganders do not want to have a say in what goes down in their own community and what economic development is approved. That's what she's saying. That's what this article is saying. This is a press release off Michigan.gov. 65% of Michiganders do not want to have a voice. Connie, polls lie. You're absolutely right. They're just, again, a way to look good, to have, oh, look at sheep, which we are not sheep, but this is how they think of us. Look at there's 65% of you guys. You don't want to go against the crowd. You want to go with the crowd. Go with the crowd. MPSC approves rate increases for natural gas customers of Consumers Energy, Michigan Gas. So the rate increase will take effect October 1st. A typical residential customer using 100 CCF of natural gas monthly will see an increase of $4.20 on their bill, a 4.2% increase. Come down here, the commission also approved a settlement agreement permitting Michigan Gas Utilities to raise its natural gas base rate 9.9 mil. The rate increase will be effective January 1st. A typical residential customer using 100 CCF of natural gas monthly will see an increase of $5.10 on their bill, a 6.6% increase. I guess I'm just kind of dumb here. What is this saying, that natural gas both through Consumers Energy, or is there an actual business called Natural Gas Utilities? Please, if you know, let me know. I should have looked that up. And maybe there is Natural Gas Utilities. So Natural Gas Utilities is going up 6.6%. But if it's not a company, then that means that our gas bill could potentially be going up close to $10 per 100 CCF. Again, if you know, clarify down below. I'm sorry that I am not sure if this is actually a company like Consumers. I guess I could quickly try to look. Michigan Gas. Yes, it is. Okay, there we go. Answer my own question with a very quick search. Michigan Gas Utilities is a regulated service serving southern and western Michigan. I've never heard of them, but now I know. So this company will be allowed to charge $5 more per 100 CCF. Treat its digitization project as a $1.75 million regulatory asset to be amortized over 15 years beginning January 1st. Maintain its current demand response pilot program. Maintain, with some revisions, the utility's residential income allowance, low income allowance, and senior bill assistance programs. Continue its main replacement program through 2027 with surcharges paused. from January 1st to the December 31st, 2024. Why is it paused for a year? Maintain a waiver of meter testing requirements until December 31st of 2028. And then again, why December 31st, 2028? What are these dates? I always ask myself that because they have plans. I mean, you see 2025 is up a lot in these plans. Like, what is the bigger plan that says, okay, the end of this phase is done in 2025? You know, 2020 to 2023 was phase 1. 2023 to 2025 is phase 2. You know, I these things go through my head. I wish I knew exactly what was going on, but obviously this is the age of deception. So we have to just try. This is Marshall now. Marshall update. I wanted to show you what it looks like. I just turned, it's just music that's playing, so I just turned that down. But I mean, this is as big as Mackinac Island. And this is the Ford project, the Blue Oval Battery Park in Marshall. And it's huge and awful. I mean, this is beautiful, and this is helping make the world a greener place. Don't you see that? Look at it, it's greener. It is a travesty. And I'm laughing because it's laugh or cry. At some point, we are going to have to do, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry to all the people that lost the beautiful Marshall that they once knew. And it ain't over, though. It ain't over till it's over. That court case, I haven't seen any updates on it yet. I keep looking out for it, and I keep scrolling through the Facebook, not the Marshall mega site and all that. Marshall, not the mega site. My brain's not working. But I've been looking. I have not found anything yet. As soon as I do, I will let you guys know. But this is about Marshall residents and their call for water testing before the EV mega site. This is once again EGLE. Thanks to Marjorie, I believe, wrote this, because I do not see some other author. Usually that author would be right here. So, citizens adjacent to the proposed EV battery megasite and legal representatives of Marshall residents pressure township officials to demand EGLE provide detailed material information and perform preventative water well testing. The residents of Marshall Township are deeply concerned about the proposed Ford Blue Oval Cattle EV battery megasite's implications on their water, and are demanding that local officials hold regulatory agencies accountable to doing preventative testing. Really quick side note, that is one of the big things that Biden wants to do with his water bills. You know, what his plans are for water is to privatize them, and that's what happened to Flint. And that I believe that's what happened to Benton Harbor, but I don't know enough about Benton Harbor. That has been surprisingly kept quiet, pretty quiet, which is crazy, but they're using Greek to keep it quiet in their emails, so not that surprising. But it's very important to understand that they are trying to mess with our water, and if they do switch it over to private, it's very dangerous, and it could cause a lot of issues. And this is very dangerous and can cause water issues as well, and they are absolutely right in being concerned and wanting to stay ahead of it. Test my water now. See what's in that now, that there's no bull crap being used in it. There's no, I gotta stop saying just bull. Test the water. Make sure it's clean. Know a before and after. Get an accurate picture of the damage done. And hopefully there isn't any. Hopefully we can stop the freaking project in its tracks. We need to know what to test for in our water, Chris Bowman told Marshall Township Supervisor Dave Bossard in early August. My well is 600 feet from the megasite property line. We need to understand the materials of construction, of the raw components, chemicals coming into the facility, what the chemical intermediates are during processing, what chemicals materials will be collected as part of the process, and what will be vented, even if filtered collected. and what components will be filtered and or discharged into the sewer. Imagine that. They want information. Why? Why can't we get information? Gotion, Marshall, even Shiawassee, all of them, all the communities right here. Big Rapids, Marshall, Mundy, EGLE, Vernon, Shiawassee, and Detroit. We all want more information and more transparency, which they keep promising, but they never deliver. We need to know what to test in our water. Oh, coming down. Glenn Kowalski, a local resident and consultant with the Committee for Marshall, not the Megasite, renewed efforts to involve Bossard in pressuring EGLE to fund the testing of water wells in Marshall Township. If this is not documented properly, Kowalski said, the state of Michigan will be complicit in this potential pollution of our aquifer and the Kalamazoo River. This should be mapped by EGLE and the EPA to ensure that any damage to drinking water of local wells is caught early and documented for formal lawsuits and remediation. To date, detailed information about materials that will be used by the facility have not been provided by Ford, and EGLE has performed no testing of local water wells. So there you have it. The people are aware, they're awake, and they're demanding accountability. That is the beginning. We need more people, strengthen numbers. Let everybody know, and let them know nicely. Go to your township meetings. The county will consist, this is Michigan Council on Future Mobility and Electrification. The council will consist of directors from the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Transportation, Insurance, and Financial Services, State Police, Treasury, Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, and the chairman of the Michigan Public Service Commission. This is who is going to get more power. The chairman and the entire board on the Michigan Public Service Commission. If Whitmer allows for them to be considered an energy department, or the solar and wind. If they allow solar and wind to bypass the local townships, the power would go to this individual right here and the people that work for the Michigan Public Service Commission. So I wanted to point that out, that they are all connected. It is one big old club. This is out of Mackinac Center. Oh, Connie. The big squeeze coming in October. I've already seen an increase in both my electric and gas bills. DTE keeps telling us we are using too much gas. We run a giant water heater and an oven stove. I know they are coming for us. And I mean, my electric bill last month is already a little bit more than what it should have been. The prices are going up. And this winter, I feel it, that it's going to be a cold, hard winter. And I pray that I'm wrong. But I have to tell you that that's what I feel, is that this is going to be a very rough winter here in Michigan. And if our gas bills are sky high and we need to have the heat on all the time because it's such a cold, harsh winter, it's going to be extremely rough, once again, for the poorest among us, more than anybody else. And that's what the game this is. This is just completely demolishing the middle class and creating a new caste system in the New World Order. And I hate to say that, and it sucks. I don't want this to be. It's just how it is and how I see it based on all the crap that I've researched and what they're saying out loud. You put the pieces together. They put the pieces out there, and it's up to you to put it together. Or, that's what they think. Well, we're telling you, it's out there. But they're not telling you, right to your face. You got to do the work. I feel the same thing, and I can't even imagine what that will look like. Yeah. Yep, October 1st. There's a lot going to happen in October. It's going to be the beginning of the craziness that it will be next year. All of next year is going to be crazy. So this is about NDAs. This is out of Mackinac Center. If that sounds outrageous and corrupt, it's because it is. Pat Garofalo works to prevent lawmakers from not signing non-disclosure agreements about business subsidy negotiations. Man, Pat has his work cut out for him. if it is a him. It could be a her. I was assuming it was that individual, but I don't know who that is actually, so. Lawmakers in every state offer cash and other favors to select companies. Often the companies and politicians sign non-disclosure agreements that oblige both parties to keep quiet about negotiations. Pat Garofalo is appalled by this lack of basic transparency. Pat directs state and local policy at the American Economic Liberties Project, working with a coalition of groups and lawmakers to outlaw legislative non-disclosure agreements. I speak with him about his efforts for the Overton Window podcast. The first thing he wants people to realize is that this deal making is ineffective. They aren't actually beneficial for the economy, Pat says. The job creation that's promised doesn't materialize. The investments don't pan out, but a lot of money goes out the door that could pay for basic services in the general business of government. Pat considers it an affront to people's sense of decency that public officials keep details of their negotiations for public favors secret. We are talking about contracts between elected leaders, people who are in public office doing public service, and private corporations that prevent those elected leaders from disclosing the terms of their deal-making with the public. Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. Thank you. You couldn't have said it any better. And how could any of that sound good? The people that defend NDAs drive me nuts. And once again, love thy neighbor. Try to understand where they're coming from. Oh, you have to try with some people, I know. But how is it ever okay for your public lawmaker to sign an NDA? I can't ever understand that. There has never been an argument that has been put in front of me that makes me understand how that's okay. And yes, people defend it. The fact that Bill Pink, there was an NDA signed to hire in Bill Pink, Ferris State University president. Why? That, again, that's Ferris State University. They get a lot of our taxpayer dollars. How come the community didn't know who the president was going to be or the candidates for the presidency of the Ferris State College? Because, yeah, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm not going to get on another tangent. Let's go. We are talking about the contracts between elected leaders, people who are in public office doing public service, and private corporations that prevent those elected leaders from disclosing the terms of their deal-making with the public. If that sounds outrageous and corrupt, it's because it is. Every time I explain to a normal person that these agreements exist, the most common reaction is shock that it's even legal. My nose itches. Sorry. Shock. It is shocking. And the fact that Gotion was under NDAs for, what, a year, 2 years? I traced it back to the beginning of 2020. Or was it 2021? I will post it down below, hopefully remember. But I did a timeline, and I went back quite a long way. And it's all because NDAs were signed that we didn't know about it, Gotion, until October of last year. The deals rarely work out as promoted, however. Politicians put out press releases, go to ribbon-cutting ceremonies, and get press about how they helped create jobs for their constituents. But even when companies don't meet expectations, they still get to cash in on their favors. One of the reasons that corporate subsidy deal-making persists is because the political capital built is useful in future elections. Pat says, these NDAs persist because political leaders realize that they can accrue the short-term political capital and then deal with any scandal that comes out because of the agreement. Dragonfly says municipalities are all under NDAs. It's wrong. It's so wrong on every level. The NDAs prevent scrutiny of deals from outside parties, but sometimes people who aren't part of negotiations for favors are able to stop deals before they happen. Pat cites a group that stopped an Amazon data center in Maryland. A guy who's literally a Christmas tree farmer got wind and organized his neighbors. That is grassroots. And it can work. It can. I have full faith. It just takes people standing up and not being complacent or apathetic, because it can be extremely easy to be apathetic. Oh, they don't listen anyway. They don't listen anyway. There's no point in me even trying. I'm just gonna keep watching my Netflix and chill. That's easy. Don't take the easy road. It leads to hell. It really does. We must do the hard thing, and we must stand up and hold them accountable and voice our opinion, even if our neighbors are mean about it. You still have to try. And again, love thy neighbor. In this case, the group was able to put a stop to the retail giant's plan. They used clever legal tactics, including open meetings law and FOIA, to stop this deal. As soon as Amazon realized that it was going to have to argue for this in public, it pulled the plug. I think that's part of the reason why Gotion had no problem going away from Big Rapids, is that they don't want to argue for it because they know it looks bad on them. The more publicity, the worse off that the corporation is, because it's shady. There's a lot of nefarious things going on, and that's if you talk about it, the truth comes out, and they don't want that. There's a group of folks around the country who have introduced bills to make these agreements illegal under state law. The one that's gotten furthest has been in New York. There is a great champion on the issue in Senator Michael Ganaris. He has gotten his bill voted out of the state of New York Senate twice. And the most interesting thing about this to me is that it has been voted out twice unanimously. We'll wonder why. They want to sign NDAs. The idea is popular. My organization and our sister organization have pulled this before. It shouldn't shock you that it pulls off the chart, Scarfello says. The general voter and the general community member, when they hear about this issue, think that it should be illegal for politicians to sign these binding contracts with corporations. Bans on legislative non-disclosure agreements also run into expert opposition. The government agencies that give out cash and other favors oppose efforts to prevent non-disclosure agreements, as do the businesses that receive assistance. You can't discount the machinery inside government that is helping to grease the skids for these deals. Institutional opposition makes it hard to change the process. And this is all while, once again, the Democrats are saying, we want to be transparent. We'll be transparent. And yet nobody wants to say, no, we can't sign NDAs. They don't want transparency. Again, another lie. And it's easy to call them out on it. I just hope more and more people will stop believing their lies. 5G towers, supervisors had to sign NDAs. I'd like to know more about that, actually. Are you talking about here in Michigan or in general? All right, so I'm going to go down. The last paragraph is usually one of the best. He thinks the bill will get passed when people get more animated about the issue and share their opinions with their representatives. If you know in your state that a bill exists, write to sponsors and say you support it. Doing so can change the political calculus that lawmakers perform to decide which way to vote on an issue. Right now, the calculus is that it's better to do the deal making and deal with the fallout because that will be better for me politically. But if we flip that and show that it's going to be costlier politically to do the deal than to fight it, then politicians are going to read the writing on the wall. So there you go. Perfectly said as well. We can flip it, but it's on us. We have allowed it to get the way it is by just letting the system run, and since the 80s probably had a good time. I don't know. We've been complacent, and now our government is corrupt and out of control on all levels except for, save perhaps, the township. But even the township, look at Green Charter, even the township can be corrupt. So this is how we flip it. We need to make it so that it's costlier for the politician if they say that they want to bypass the local township to push solar and wind. It should be costly for those people. All of the people that are pushing this, all of the representatives that are pushing for the bypassing of our voice, they need to be called out, and there needs to be a cost for what they're doing. We need to get them out of there, recall them, boycott, whatever. We need to figure out who these people are and make them understand we will not accept this anymore. That's how we hold our government accountable. I think the momentum is our way. I've been working on these issues for a bit now, and I feel cautiously optimistic. I think pre-HQ2, the idea that a bill banning NDAs in these deals would pass any state legislative chamber was silly nonsense. Now it's come up unanimously twice out of the New York State Senate. So that gives me hope. Okay, so I had it a little bit backwards earlier, but he clarified it right there. I'm sorry for that. So they unanimously said we want to ban the capability of signing NDAs from our politicians. That is good news. And hopefully we can bring that here to Michigan. All right, more on Marshall. Now, this isn't about the mega site, although it kind of is, because both Gotion and I believe this mega site, they are touting 100% renewable energies are going to power these facilities. It's like, how the hell is 100% renewable energy, solar and wind, going to power Gotion, a 550,000 square foot plant? But hey, keep lying to me. Once again, you see how beautiful this is? Look at that. A couple years ago, oh no, it was more than a couple. 2016, I believe, there was an article about ravens attacking solar panels. I just showed you about them killing desert tortoises, but these solar farms destroy biodiversity, and they destroy our agriculture. They destroy our food supply. They destroy the beauty of our land. But if we're all living in the city, no one's going to see this. This is like, to me, it's like the Matrix. We are really going to make the world so terrible that we're going to want to live in the metaverse. We're going to want to go into virtual reality, augmented reality. We won't want to see what we've done to this planet if we continue this. The Serial City project will cost NextEra $130 million. It's expected to generate $20 million in tax revenue for Marshall Township and Calhoun County and create 200 jobs during construction. A solar farm on 1,000 acres of land in Marshall Township is expected to be in commercial operation December 2023. Between 500 and 900 acres of the site will house solar panels. The perimeter of the property will contain native species of vegetation planted by NextEra for screening and will preserve existing vegetation as much as possible, not possible at all, to provide a visual buffer around the project. Why would they do that? According to plans submitted to the township, the site plan also says breaks or gaps in wildlife movement corridors will be minimized to protect local wildlife and preserve natural ecosystems. Again, I already showed you, it's not going to, there is no protecting local wildlife or preserving natural ecosystems with solar farms. It's devastation. These sites are often owned by those who want to continue farming, but may not have any family members to take it over. They are willing to sell generational farms because no one is there to take it over. This is another, and what's really sad is that it's because those same farmers, instead of instilling a love for farming in their children, they thought they were giving better by getting them to go to college. And when they were in college, they were brainwashed to think whatever they wanted you to think. But one of them is, farming no good, farming lower, lesser than you, CEO good, city job good, city life good, country life stupid, farmer stupid, just all of these conceptions that were given to the younger generations. It is a travesty because younger generations, although more and more are saying they want to have farms, but now there's so many regulations that they can't afford the farms. So it's just this doom spiral nightmare that we've created, or that a certain group of people have created while we were sleeping. Along with the work that goes into selecting a site, there is establishment of close working relationships with governmental officials in the municipalities where these sites are located. Close working relationships with government officials in the municipalities where these sites are located. Right, and they use NDAs to make deals with Green Charter Township, although they claim they never signed NDAs. And if that's true, then again, Jim Chapman didn't need to sign an NDA. That's how sold out he is. That's how much he works for you, the people of Green Charter Township, which again, he's being recalled, successfully been recalled. So the people have spoken there, and they will speak again when they vote for the next board. And that, yeah, hopefully, I mean, everything I've seen, there's just a small, very vocal minority of people that like Jim Chapman and support what the board has done in the last couple of years. Very small, vocal minority. And most of them, either have businesses that would benefit, or they, they have connections with specific people that are involved in selling their property for Gotion and all that. So, yeah, very small, vocal minority. But we'll see in the vote, right, for Green Charter Township. The issue I see when we talk about a large project like this is that we want to have the right individuals reviewing it. There are a lot of rules and regulations and a lot of townships that don't make sense in our view that have been put in for prohibitive purposes. So this guy is complaining that townships have been putting in ordinances to say no wind or solar farms here, buddy. And he's like, this is bull. He don't like it. I wonder why, right? He wants to push his crap. We see in many states that many of these sitting procedures went up to the county or state level. Review experts in the industry make sure that we're meeting that compliance. We have to work closely with township and county counterparts to meet or exceed any requirements set forth. Township officials are scared because there are a lot of moratoriums and referendums put in place for solar initiatives. There are a lot of recalls. If you have a vocal minority speak out loudly based on mistruths, that can be damaging. What he just said there, I have to say, what do you mean? If a vocal minority speak out loudly based on mistruths, holy crap, mistruth. What he's saying there is people that don't want solar and wind because they know, not a mistruth, they know the truth. And the truth is that they're terrible and they're an eyesore and there's nothing beneficial about them except for the central planners that want to control our lives and lead us into smart cities and have a freaking chip in our head called Neuralink and a digital ID and a carbon freaking wallet and all of these stupid globalist central planning ideas that they are putting forth. That is all allegedly mistruth according to this guy, and it's just a minority of people that don't want that in their backyard or anywhere. And again, it's not a NIMBY situation here. Everybody that I know that actually understands what's going on with solar panels and wind turbines, they don't want it anywhere because we love human beings. I don't want the indigenous populations of Argentina to be suffering for lithium mining, for EV batteries, for rich people to have an electric car. Like, I don't want that. But this guy wants that. This guy is saying that I am spreading mistruths right now. The Cereal City Solar Project ran into opposition from a group calling themselves Concerned Marshall Township Residents, and Calhoun County citizens, who took out a full-page ad in a local newspaper in October in opposition to the project. This was several months after the Township's Planning Commission approved a special use permit and site plan during a meeting in early February. Again, did they know about that in early February? Because they did a local newspaper in October. Is it possible that they did not know about the plans until that much later? Perrick says the opposition most often comes from individuals who don't want to see wind turbines or solar panels in their communities. In any community ever. How about that? No community. A lot of times fear takes hold and it becomes an angry mob mentality, he says. See, this is exactly why optics are so important. We cannot yell at the board because people will use that against you. It doesn't matter if you're justified in your anger. It will be used against you. And I'm sorry that that's the way it is. So Do not be an angry mob. Do not show angry mob mentality ever. And you should do it because we should lead by example anyway. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means in this. I do make mistakes all the time, but I try to understand my neighbor, to lead by example, to not be an angry mob mentality type of individual, and I don't want to push that ever. We need to win hearts and minds, and that's done by leading by example and be the change that you want to see in the world. Change is always, he continues being a condescending asshole. We want to listen to them and understand their concerns. Change is always difficult, but once we start putting together plans and working on them, that opposition goes away, he says. I don't think the opposition goes away, but perhaps people get tired of constantly saying, no, we don't want this, and it happening anyway. And maybe they stop going to their township board meetings and voicing their opposition. That is not a win for the community. That's not a win for Michiganders. That's not a win for the United States of America. That is a loss in all ways. We don't want that. The agreement is part of Consumers Energy Plan to add 8,000 megawatts of utility-scale solar power by 2040, including 1,100 megawatts by 2024. The solar developments are part of the company's clean energy plan to eliminate coal as a fuel source for electricity by 2025 and achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2040. Look at, oh man. Look at all that geoengineering going on. By the way, 2040 is a big number in a lot of ways. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about Maui, and I found Maui 2040 project, which absolutely has to do with the devastation that took place over there. So I'm going to give an update tomorrow on that. But I'm going to finish this one up, and I'm only halfway done. It's like I always have too much information to share with you guys. Increasing clean energy for our customers shows our commitment to being a force of change for clean energy that benefits the people of Michigan and protects our planet, says Dennis Dobbs, Consumer Energy's Vice President for Enterprise Project Management and Environmental Services, in a press release. Our partners in these projects are helping us transform the energy landscape. In September 2020, Governor Gretchen Whitmer committed Michigan to achieve economy-wide carbon neutrality no later than 2050. Solar farms typically operate for 25 to 30 years, which is the life expectancy of solar panels. Owners of the property where these operations are located enter into a year-to-year lease with Nextra. This individual, Perrick, says the amount landowners are paid is between his company and the landowner. I'm sure an NDA was signed there as well. This really quick, what will happen to solar panels after their useful lives are over? Oh, useful. That is up for debate. This is 2018, and I'm not going to go over the entire thing, but part of the problem is that solar panels are complicated to recycle. They're made of many materials, some hazardous, and assembled with adhesives and sealants that make breaking them apart challenging. This goes into many details on the recycling process. Despite the challenges, ECS has been ramping up its photovoltaic recycling capacity. It's a semi-decent growth area these next few years, but exploding about 2020 and beyond. Well, how did this individual know that it would be exploding around 2020 and beyond? Anticipating millions of metric tons of panels expected to come offline. 2020. Everybody somehow knew 2020 was going to be something. In the US, most of this progress is happening without the guidance of regulations. Love that. So Truss, this is the PM over in the UK, and she is trying to block solar farms because she's worried about food chain and food supply for the United Kingdom. Because, as you can see, it takes up a lot of space in order to have these solar farms. A lot of space. House Committee raises national security concerns with Ford partnership. This is out of Capcom, and this, once again, is talking about Marshall. We are concerned that Ford's partnership with a Chinese company could aid China's efforts to expand its control over United States electric vehicle supply chains and jeopardize national security for furthering dependence on China. And this was Jim Farley, CEO of, reads part of the September 1st letter from members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee to Jim Farley, CEO of Ford. So we have individuals that are bringing up that there are national security concerns. I really hope that this actually stops the Marshall Project, because it did not stop Gotion, at least not yet. There are still people trying to use this method. But for some reason, the government doesn't seem too worried about national security issues. Gotion VP discusses CIFIS review for Green Charter Township facility. And here you have Jim Chapman, who has been recalled, still making decisions though, which is something that I don't really like. Obviously, it must be the rules, but if he's been recalled, it means that the people don't like what he's been doing. He shouldn't have any power or say. He shouldn't be able to do anything, but he still is. And that is Chuck Thelen, who is in charge of Project Elephant. Early in the process, following the vote to approve the Renaissance Zone, the Big Rapids Township board members began to express concerns about the project because of a lack of transparency from company representatives and concerns about the connection to the CCP. The most basic question that should have been put to the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, the legislature, and the congressional delegates and the townships regarding the Gotion project should have been if they have done their due diligence by doing a CIFIS review of the company, Trustee Penny Curry said at the time. Gotion, Inc. voluntarily submitted information to the U.S. Treasury Department for review in April, according to Gotion North American Manufacturing VP Chuck Thelen. I love how the very biased Big Rapids Pioneer consistently puts Gotion North American Manufacturing Vice President Chuck Thelen, as if to say, it's not Gotion, the Chinese company. This is the North American section of it. This is the baby. Doesn't the parent matter? In June, the Department of Treasury released a statement saying CIFIS concluded that the proposed purchase of land in Michigan by Gotion is not a covered transaction, which they define as a proposed or pending transaction with any foreign person, which could result in the control or business by a foreign person. Some reaction to the statement from the Department of Treasury with skepticism, stating it was not a full and complete review of the company. In a letter dated back August 15th, Big Rapids Township Clerk Hannah Saez stated Gotion refused to provide the necessary requested information to complete a CIFIS review initiated by Big Rapids Township to secure all necessary information involving the proposed transaction so that they could make an informed decision regarding the project. Instead, Gotion filed their own voluntary declaration, which offers only a vague and incomplete information regarding the transaction to the United States Department of Treasury. Thelen said any claims that CIFIS was not a full review are baseless. Okay, well, Thelen is a known liar. We've caught him in a lie. Idra, myself, and Brandy Sweet, who is an environmental activist, Green Charter Township. We've caught Thelen in a lie. So I don't trust what he's saying right there, and it's up to you. If you want to, you can. During a meeting with Green Charter Township Supervisor Jim Chapman and Costa County Administrator Paul Bullock, who is allegedly a non-biased reviewer of the questions for that one panel that we had last year on Gotion. But yeah, that was a joke. Thelen discussed the CIFIS review. All right, come down here. Thelen said previously that to do funding through the state, they were required to show officials a copy of the CIFIS, and the state and the MEDC have accepted the results of the CIFIS, but it cannot be disclosed to the public because it is federally protected information. There you have it. Gotion, not learning much new because it's all federally protected, and you know, we're supposed to trust Chuck Thelen and what he says, even though he's working for the company that is going to come to Green Charter Township. This, I wanted to show you China's Gotion to build historic $2 billion EV battery plant in Illinois. And this is the governor of Illinois. Took me a while to get here, but this is for you, Dragonfly. At an economic forum, the World Economic Forum in Davos, Pritzker plays role of Illinois Best Chief Marketing Officer. So this was one, I think there was only 3. I think Georgia governor, the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and Illinois governor went to the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos. And so it is no surprise that Gotion would be going to Illinois, because China is working hand in hand with Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum, and so is Whitmer, and so is the Illinois governor, Pritzker. So, to me, it's easy. Like, don't you think that those are connected? The fact that they went to the World Economic Forum, as does Xi Jinping, and shakes hand with Klaus Schwab, as did Biden and Trump and Obama, and everybody gives tribute to Klaus Schwab, including Xi Jinping. And now we have Chinese companies in our states. Again, it's not a coincidence to me. There are no coincidences. Something I wanted to share, no cars for you. World Economic Forum calls for the end of private car ownership. So this is why when people think that 2 billion cars need to be created, that they don't understand the full plan. And they're saying this article that they're talking about right here came out in 2016. Goodbye car ownership, hello clean air, welcome to the future of transport. December 16th of 2016. They have planned for a very long time for you and I to not have a private car. They ask if your car is really necessary. The World Economic Forum doesn't think so. The World Economic Forum has published a paper that calls for an end to wasteful private car ownership in favor of communal sharing to lessen global demands for precious metals and fossil fuels and lithium. And the digital twin of everything, how tokenized assets can change the digital world. This is a part of something extremely dangerous that is going on. If they copy, let's say, the electric vehicles, they copy and make a digital twin inside the metaverse. This is how everybody owns that digital car. It's gonna be tokens. So the digitization of our world is accelerating, leaving no region or industry untouched, enabled by technological innovations such as blockchain technology and decentralized storage of sensitive data. Digitization is creating a world in which everything is done online, especially in the wake of COVID-19. In this new era, we are forced to rethink many traditional concepts like private property, through which we make sense of the world. Money, equity, private property, to name a few. Innovators are realizing that there are enormous opportunities in rebuilding these core concepts from first principles. I have to go on a small rant about Bitcoin. I knew from the very beginning I've never invested in Bitcoin because it has been a beta test for how they're going to do digital IDs. Blockchain technology will be used, once again, to enslave us. All of your data will be in a little block that's chained to another little block where all of your neighbor's data will be, and all the data on electric cars. So then you can see who has used that electric car. It sounds crazy, and it's hard to comprehend and explain exactly how interconnected all of these things are, but they certainly are interconnected. And the tokenization aspect I've been looking into with the digital twin. Again, you will own nothing. This is how you will own nothing and allegedly be happy. This is Carol Roth's book, just came out this year. I have not read it yet, so I can't say one way or another like what the information is like. So far, though, I've read the first page, and it was a very funny intro. But anyway, this is how you will own nothing, is because everybody will own it through tokenization and digitization. Connie says, we were distracted by what in 2016? An election. You're absolutely right. It seems like there's always something to distract us. And people have noticed the pattern that every time there's an election, that there's some new variant to scare us with. And this year will be no different. But anyway, crazy stuff going on. But we can stop it. And once again, I have a video. There is a good plan. Okay, there are people that are coming up with ideas to stop the Great Reset. And it's the Good Reset, the Great Resist, and one of these books, which is buried. And at the end of the Great Reset, which I don't know if you can see that or not, but this book by Michael Reckenwald also has solutions at the end to stop the Great Reset, because it is absolutely possible. The Great Refusal, that's what he calls it, the Great Refusal. So there's several different solutions. I'm going to compile them and come out with a video so that it's not hopeless. Of course it's not hopeless. It's never hopeless. It's just a very difficult boss battle that we have to fight, okay? And we can win. It's just going to be hard. But the best things in life are not easy. A digital world means that ownership should be modeled in a natively digital way. NFTs allow us to accomplish just that technologically. Legally, however, there are property rights and ownership issues in some jurisdictions. Due to unique properties, NFTs offer a way to encode ownership of any type of asset digitally, including physical assets and intangible things. Natively digital assets ideas. Moreover, NFTs are anchored in blockchains, an immutable registry of records that cannot be manipulated or controlled by any single entity or malicious actors. Anyone can trust that blockchains can reliably show the correct ownership distribution of assets. Right, so they want to know everything that we're doing at all times, and it cannot be falsified. Use cases of NFTs are abundant and can be found wherever there's a need to digitally model ownership or property rights. Consequently, NFTs will likely be among the most important building blocks of the digital world, or even potentially a metaverse. So, unfortunately, I don't know if I have time to get into this entire thing. I'm going to continue on. If I do, I'll come back to it. But I will continue to talk about digital twins, NFTs, blockchain technology, because these topics are endless, and they are absolutely important for property rights and therefore our rights as human beings. And our bodies are property as well. This is my property, but they want to try to own that too. Let's see. I'm going to show you this video.
Is it practical to do it now?
Well, we can discussion easy with the two-letter word, no. There's no such thing, of course, as a zero emissions vehicle. The real question is, where are the emissions associated with the electric car? Because what you do with an electric vehicle is you don't eliminate emissions, you export them somewhere else. You have to dig up about 500,000 pounds of materials to make a single 1,000-pound battery. It takes 100 to 300 barrels of oil to manufacture a battery that can hold 1 barrel of oil equivalent of energy. Just manufacturing the battery can have a carbon debt ranging from 10 tons to 40 tons of CO2. And the plans that are in place to increase the use of batteries will require an increase in production of minerals like lithium, cobalt, zinc. Demand for those minerals will increase between 400% and 4,000%. Isn't there enough mining in the world to make enough batteries for that many people for their car?
Do we want to go all?
Well, as you know, because I just discussed it, they don't want us all to have cars, so that problem won't be there. However, the problem still exists for the cars that will make up the transportation of the cities. So in the cities, you will have smart cars, you will have automated cars, like Minority Report, right? And those automated cars will be in an NFT, and everybody will own them, digital tokenization. And so I'll be able, allegedly, as long as my social credit score is high enough, I'll be able to go beep, boop, beep on my phone, or even I could just blink twice if I have a chip in my head, maybe, and that will alert the car that I need it to come pick me up. Who knows? I just watched a woman who had the chip in her head, and it was still sticking out because they're testing. But you could see, and I'm not trying to be gross here, I can understand why she couldn't, she had problems after a stroke. And so I can understand why she might want to try to be able to communicate with her husband. It's very sad, and I get what she was doing, but you can see that it looks like an open wound. It is an open wound, and there's, you know, liquid around it, like it's seeping, like it's just, it's so weird to me. And again, I understand why she'd want to try, but to put a corporation's product in your body, that's what you're doing. It takes so much trust. And so I guess, but at what point would you take the risk, you know, if you weren't able to speak to your husband anymore because of a stroke, and then this technology will allegedly allow you to speak to your husband, would you put a chip in your head for that? That's maybe the question of the day. Let me know down below. Neuralink is a real thing, so it's not a crazy conspiracy. This is something that they're trying to put in our head. Coming over here, this is C40 knowledge, okay? If you don't know about C40 cities, these are cities that have promised to go above and beyond and be basically test cities for the smart 15-minute smart city, smart grid future, the future of cities for the globalists anyway. This is what their idea of a future is for the city. So the report outlines recommendations for cities to foster private investments and develop effective business models for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, EVCI. And I actually read something out of Ottawa that they're having issues, that there is confusion between who's in charge of implementing charging facilities. You know, if Walmart wants to put in a bunch in Muskegon, I believe it was in Muskegon, but the government said no, then who's in charge? And so there is legal questions going on in that front. But this is a guide. Establish a governance body within the city to manage electric vehicle charging infrastructure, including setting strategy, conducting site assessments, and convening the various actors, both private and public, that need to contribute to EVCI deployment. So right there, establish a governance body within the city. We're not going to vote for them. The city is just going to appoint a new board. I'm sure they've already done that, especially like Grand Rapids. It's set to be a 15-minute city. I'm sure that you could find that this governance body that's supposed to manage the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Establish clear targets for EV charging infrastructure deployment to help signal the market and guide investment from companies. Engage early on with private sector and original manufacturers, equipment manufacturers, to accelerate rollout and create strong working partnerships through utility city partnerships or working groups, for example. Develop urban space management protocols and regulations that indicate where investors should place new chargers or charging hubs, taking into account other important public space functions such as bike lanes. Yes, that's very important to the New World Order. And ensuring that planned sites will have sufficient energy supply. Foster funding streams within the city and from other sources, including via private-public partnerships. Public seed funding is usually needed to kickstart the EVCI market. Public seed funding. That means taking our tax dollars and picking winners, which are, in this case, electric vehicle charging infrastructure companies. Establish technical standards for EV charging infrastructure in order to align potential investors and companies and to reduce friction at later planning or permitting stages. And here it shows an example of the different ways that they can drive this demand. And government-driven is what we're experiencing in California and Michigan and other parts of the United States, because the government, the local government and municipalities can interfere, unlike in the areas like Bangkok, where the private sector is driving it because there are no regulations that need to be overcome. There are no people saying, no, we don't want this, and actually have their voice heard like you're supposed to in America. And then energy utility driven state energy agencies, so Dubai and Montreal, because the energy sector has the power. So these are the different ways that supply and demand can be manipulated and is being manipulated. This, I've shared just a little bit about this. GM created its own open source software protocol and wants its competitors to use it. And people think that this is a good idea at first, because open software means that you can work on. Let me just read this. General Motors announced the creation of its own open source software protocol as a starting point for other automakers and developers to create better software experiences for its customers. The move comes as the auto industry scrambles to hire more software developers and programs to help produce cars that are essentially computers on wheels. GM's U protocol is part of the automaker's plan to speed up software development by streamlining the creation of software that is distributed across multiple devices within vehicles, as well as across the cloud and mobile, the company said in a release. This means that they want open software so that way, let's say the parking garage uses, let's call the software Y, okay? So the parking garage uses software Y to scan cars, electric cars that go in and out, and so you could see what time they're in, and all that. All the data is collected using a software called Y. Well, they want open source like this so that you can implement Y easily into your electric vehicle, and so basically you can have what we have now, which is you have Twitter has their own, or sorry, Twitter. Netflix has their own app. Pioneer has their, or not Pioneer. Peacock has their own app. Disney has their own app. Everybody has their own application. This will allow for everyone to have their own application, and they can nickel and dime you. So you have to, yeah. I'm going to come down to this comment. This comment will explain it better than I can. In the words of Tropic Thunder, GM can take 2 steps back and literally fuck its own face. Do they think consumers are so stupid we won't read what they are saying on earnings calls? They are trying to drive $25 billion in revenue from software subscriptions by 2030. Selling you a $50,000 car and then trying to nickel and dime you to death with fees to use something you bought outright. I hope they fail miserably. That's exactly what they're trying to do. This individual understands how this open software sounds like a great idea, but will be used against us once again, and how. Again, $18 a month for you to have heated seats and yada, yada, yada. Nickel and dime you. If this loads, this is just a quick look at the whitehouse.gov/invest that I wanted to show you, but it doesn't look like it's going to be loading, so I'm going to move on. Current climate efforts need time. A luxury-only stratospheric aerosol injection can provide. Now, I know that I shared this probably way too late in the stream. I'm going to try to share it again in another video because it's so unbelievably important that people know that this is going on. We believe that SAI is the immediate necessary solution to cool the planet and buy us time to transition to a more sustainable future. Make sunsets deploys reflective clouds in the stratosphere to cool Earth, a bold solution inspired by volcanic eruptions in nature. Some may call it solar engineering. We call it an opportunity to reverse global warming. How hubris, how arrogant to think that not only can we manipulate the entire cycle that Earth provides and intelligent design provided, but that we won't have any kind of negative consequences in attempting to do so. So they are trying to block out the sun make sunsets. Why? There's a reason why we call it climate emergency. It's based off of a lie. It's based off of a lie, falsification. And again, they doom and gloom you, fires and rain, intense rain, and just climate in general. The planet is out to get you. We're at war with the planet. The fact that they are getting away with this. We have launched 28 balloons and offset 4,791 ton years of warming. Committed to science, biased towards action. At Make Sunsets, we believe that we have a responsibility to make bold moves to combat climate change. We're not afraid of controversy or challenges, and are passionate about developing innovative solutions to mitigate the worst effects of global warming. The science and math back us up. And that's why I call science nowadays a religion. It's a religion. We also recognize that there are unknowns and risks associated with stratospheric aerosol injection. With climate change rapidly transforming our world, it's crucial that we prioritize action over words. We believe the best time to field test and scale SAI is now. Our roadmap. Over 26,000 ton years cooling to be achieved. So it started April 2022. And over 2,500 ton years cooling to be achieved. Yeah, they are spraying. They've been spraying. And if you have eyes in your head, you can see it. You know, when I'm on the river, I look up. There's some days where I could see intelligent design at work. It looks like Bob Ross painting. Okay, it's beautiful. The clouds are perfect and fluffy, and there's nothing in between them but blue sky. That is a beautiful day. And then there's times when there's nothing but chemicals in the sky. And it's not condensation. It's not freaking natural that just comes out of the plane. I'm tired of hearing that crap. I mean, how much proof do you need? They spray stuff in the air, and you see it with your own eyes. Believe it when you see it. Whale deaths and wind farms, the facts that cannot be ignored. During 2018, as more and more reports came in of whales, including large numbers of Cuvier's beaked whales being washed up around the UK coastline, it was decided that sonic activity from military maneuvers in North Atlantic was the most likely cause for the whale's death, though the Royal Navy was quick to deny any involvement on its part and said at the time there's no evidence that the deaths of these marine mammals have been attributed to any Royal Navy sonar operations, trials, or exercises. There's no evidence. Don't believe the obvious. When you put in sonar capable machines underwater, when you put in wind turbines and have machines that use sonar to look for places that you can pour your cement to put your freaking wind turbine in the ocean. I mean, I know I've probably said this way too many times, and if you've been here for any length of time, you've heard me talk about this before, but I continue to see dead whales on Twitter or X, whatever, and it just crushes my heart. It's so devastating to see these huge, beautiful, majestic creatures on the beach dead because of our actions, and yet it's being denied that that's the cause. 2,590 turbines in North Sea and many unexpected whale deaths. If we concentrate for now on the well-documented reports of whale strandings around North Sea coasts, we can see, as the map below illustrates, that there are an astonishing 2,590 wind turbines currently operating in the North Sea across 40 extensive wind farms. Let that figure sink in for a moment. 2,590 wind turbines in the water. In the absence of any obvious explanation for the whale's deaths, might it not be entirely logical to believe that they have been disoriented by low-level noise emitting from the vast banks of turbines? The industry admits that they are trying to find ways to avoid harm to whales and other crustaceans. I want to say crustaceans. That's not it. during construction of wind farms. So they know there is a problem. They know there is a problem. But they have also implied that operational noise from established wind farms can have a detrimental effect on marine animals. For example, in an article for Renewable Energy World, author Dr. Frederica Pace, an expert on the subject of underwater acoustics, states clearly that servicing vessels used during construction and operation of offshore wind farms can generate continuous noise at low frequencies, which overlap with the communication signals of many marine animals, such as the baleen whales. But hey, there's no proof. This doctor was paid for by big oil. That's what they say. And that I'm a big oil shill because I'm against wind farms. It's just a way to shut down conversation and facts, and it's an egregious way to do so. Dr. Pace goes on to say that the noise thresholds that lead to changes in behavior and wider population impacts are still largely unknown. Back in 2014, the Charity Whale and Dolphin Conservation were warning of the impact that construction of 4 new offshore wind farms in Scotland would have on marine mammals. Another nail in the coffin of the local harbor seal population, they said, adding that it would also severely affect the population of bottlenose dolphins. There is no certainty that the effects of construction over a period of 5 years on the bottlenose dolphin population can be recovered. I don't know how much more proof you need, but wind farms are terrible for biodiversity and they destroy biodiversity. All right. Governor Whitmer, please run for president. This will be the last one that I discuss. Thank you guys for hanging out. I know it was another long one. Still didn't get to talk to you about everything I wanted to, but the most important stuff I did. This just came out, and it's just another call from another individual that says, Governor Whitmer is the one. She is the one that's going to lead us to a better world. What do you think? Do you think Whitmer would lead us to a better world? The 2024 presidential race is looking less like a function of democracy than it is a Greek tragedy, complete with huge egos and fatal flaws. You know from the beginning that it ends poorly for everyone. Former President Donald Trump, facing multiple indictments, still dominates the Republican field, outpolling other candidates by upwards of 30 percentage points. Again, this is just my opinion, but he is an establishment figure that is meant to look anti-establishment. Now, I love many, many, many Trump supporters, and I respect your ideas, and I understand why people think that Trump is anti-establishment, and it definitely helps when they indict him and threaten to put him in jail, and people talking about assassination. Tucker Carlson was talking about this. All helps him look like the anti-establishment. Or it all points to the fact that he is anti-establishment. Those are the two options that I can see. Either he is 100% anti-establishment and they're after him, or they're acting like it so that he can be the anti-establishment president, even though he's bought and paid for and is actually establishment. Maybe Biden could beat him. No. No way. He's done it once before. No comment. And a majority of Americans say they wouldn't support a third Trump candidacy. But Biden's real rival is time. Fans of Disney's Hercules can imagine the underworld's fates raising the scissors to his thread. Wow. This article. This is MichiganDaily.com, by the way. I don't know their bias, but I'm pretty sure they're left. But I'm sorry if they're not. I don't know for sure. A rematch between the two would challenge Americans' faith in the electoral system, but it's not inevitable. Now, I've written in the past about the need for a third major party and the potential for Michigan to lead the way. I'm still counting on an exciting no-labels ticket, but until then, Michigan has another way to rescue American politics. Governor Gretchen Whitmer should run for president. She's a strong, moderate voice, capable of defeating both Biden and Trump. Polarization in Washington has deafened politicians to the needs of ordinary Americans. And a swing state like Michigan, listening to both sides is the only way to survive. The fact that this individual can sit here and say that she is moderate in any way, shape, or form, it just cracks me up. It's like, how can anyone believe that she is a moderate? Whitmer is good at it. Yes, she's a very good politician. You're right. She hasn't used the Democratic trifecta in Lansing to push through a radical agenda. What world are you living in? What world? Instead, she's passed bipartisan legislation to reduce the price of prescription drugs. Prices have gone up. And expand clean energy production. Whitmer has the perfect message for 2024. Polarization is tearing this country apart. We need someone to unite us. I crossed the partisan divide in Michigan, and I'll do it again in Washington. People, especially millennials and Gen Zers, would love it. More than half of them identify as politically independent. And with Whitmer's popular positions on abortion, climate change, and gun control, all highly important issues to young voters, they would show up big to support her. Now, I'm sitting here, I'm like, abortion, she's left. Climate change, she's left. Gun control, she's left. I mean, she is a Democrat, but I'm saying that you want to say she's bipartisan and she's moderate, but the three big ones that you just said, she is 100% on the left Democratic side in that. She wants red flag laws, which are a violation of the Second Amendment. She believes, well, says she believes in the climate change narrative that we are destroying the world by breathing with carbon, and abortion, egregious. I mean, she wants to get rid of regulations where you even have to wait for a little while before you get the abortion. Just the day you go in, you can get it. She's trying to make it flow nice and smooth, that you can just go get an abortion easy peasy, like it's birth control, which it absolutely is not. It's a terrible procedure, and women have been lied to about the procedure and their rights and what they should be doing as a mother in society. Anyway, Whitmer isn't especially charismatic, at least compared to a JFK or Reagan. Not RFK, excuse me, to a JFK or Reagan. But she's clear and coherent. She can articulate a point without fumbling over her words or spewing self-aggrandizing She can articulate a point without fumbling over her words. This is something that is a reason why she could be a presidential candidate. Man, we really set the bar low here in America, didn't we? Unlike the alternative, she can successfully climb stairs and stay on script during a speech. Whitmer's would be a campaign of ideas. That's what America needs right now, not another impeachment or indictment. Should Whitmer make it to the general election, her Achilles heel will be her COVID-19 response. When the pandemic came, she failed. Michigan's lockdowns were far stricter and longer than most other states, and Whitmer faced some of the stiffest resistance in the country. Conservative Michiganders never bought into her politics, and they fought back hard, many of them taking their grievances and guns to the Capitol building. Which is why that crap went down with the FBI framing a couple of Michigander individuals for the kidnapping of Whitmer. The FBI was heavily involved, which means the government set up those people that weren't part of the FBI. And what happened? The result was no guns on the Capitol. These people know that eventually we will get mad enough to do something to try to stop them. I'm not advocating violence. You know, I never advocate violence, but peacefully protest and to march upon the Capitol and you know, when they did go to the Capitol with their guns, nothing happened. Everybody just peacefully had their weapon on them as they can, the Second Amendment right. But the fact is, you cannot have guns at the Capitol. It's illegal. I mean, they're just putting in all of these different regulations to protect themselves because they know eventually people will be done with their crap. And another thing, the January 6th thing, one thing I noticed that I have to share. After January 6th, recently, Trump asked once again for people to come and to peacefully protest, and nobody did. They were too scared. So I think that January 6th worked out perfect for the establishment because people are terrified now that the government will be used against them and they will be thrown in jail without a trial if they peacefully protest. That's the kind of fear that has been spread thanks to what's been going on after January 6th and after the individuals peacefully took their grievance to Lansing. Now there's repercussions, and again, it's problem, reaction, solution. They did not want guns to be available on the Capitol. They wanted to take away the Second Amendment right on a public building, and now they have. To Whitmer's credit, when she finally did open the state and cases started to spike, she understood her voters and refused to lock down again. No, she knew that that she would lose, or if she did win, it would look way more suspicious than it did this last time. Thanks to abortion, it didn't look very suspicious that she won. It looks like she actually could have been elected instead of selected. But if she would have locked down again and won, everybody would have known that she was selected. She'll take a few jabs about it on the debate stage, but political memories are short. It's so disgusting to say that. She did terrible things, has destroyed Michigan, the education system here in Michigan, and several other small businesses, tons of small businesses gone. And yet, our political memories are short. Most people have moved on. The lasting damage from the pandemic will be harder to forget. Parents are angry that their children aren't learning as well in school, and they're 2 years behind here in Michigan. 2 years. Kids are 2 years behind. Your parents have a right to be angry about that. But, parents need to take their kids now out of school. Public school is government school. And it's time to learn, to wake up. Your government is at war with you and me, the people. And so you cannot give your children to them. Small business owners before quarantine are now just former small business owners. Whitmer has managed the fallout well. Michigan's K-12 test scores dropped after COVID, as they did everywhere, but the state still managed to boost its national ranking in math. On the issue voters care about most, their wallets, Whitmer directly contradicts the Republican narrative that Democrats are bad for the economy. Michigan's GDP growth significantly exceeded the national average in 2021, with a surprise bright spot in Detroit. This is all manipulated stats right here. All manipulated stats. So don't trust that. The growth was significantly exceeded the national average. Manipulated data. I bet you that some huge piece of information was taken out so that they could say this line right here. That's what they do. That's how they said Bill Clinton was actually positive. They took out Social Security. He was never positive. The debt has never been positive, or the budget has never been balanced. That was a lie. Clinton never balanced the budget. They took out numbers. That's how they manipulate shit. Whatever credibility Whitmer lost during lockdowns, she's earned back. Bullcrap. The governor has the track record and the energy to beat Biden in the primaries, but she must enter the race soon. The Democratic Party desperately wants a new nominee, someone they can proudly stand behind rather than begrudgingly vote for because they don't want Trump. But shaking up the race in the final hour would make her very few friends. If Whitmer enters now, she'll have her critics, but most of the nation will applaud her courage, and thank God we've been spared from a repeat of 2020. I couldn't disagree more with Jack Brady over here at the Michigan Daily. Again, it's laughable to think she's moderate. She'd be a terrible president, but I do think she will run. I think it will be her versus Trump, or her versus Vivek Ramaswamy. And I'm not saying that I want Ramaswamy. I'm saying that he reminds me of Obama, and not in a good way. Yeah, let me know. What do you think? Let me bring myself up back on the screen. Do you guys think that Whitmer will run for president or not? And do you think if she does, it will be her versus Vivek Ramaswamy, or do you think Trump will be the nominee? Nothing is going to happen to him. Now, both Biden and Trump are old. From everything I've seen, though, Trump can still think. whereas Biden can't. I just cannot believe that they're allowing him to run again. I don't know what's going on with that, but people want Whitmer. And the calls continue to pour in. I mean, every day there's more and more articles on Whitmer being president or running for presidency in 2024. So let me know what you think. Would you vote for her? And I'm going to tell you right here, if you do, that's okay. I don't agree with you, but that doesn't mean that I don't respect your ideas, or, you know, if you want to vote for her, that's your prerogative. And I thank you for watching me anyway, even though I rag on her all the time. But most people, I think, that watch would not ever want Whitmer because she is a tyrant and locked people down and did all that she did, as we all know that lived through it from 2020 to 2022. She was a tyrant. So I wouldn't vote for her, but I wouldn't vote for any of them. So what does that say? Thank you guys for hanging out. Once again, I really appreciate it. Tomorrow, Maui, part 2, I will be discussing the tragedy that is Maui. 2,000 children missing. Speculation on whether or not they're gone or missing still. Tunnels found under Maui. All kinds of things going on there. It's awful. And it absolutely is looking more and more like a land grab, which I knew right from the beginning. Because of all the research I've been doing, they will land grab the hell out of anything they want for their plans. They don't care about loss of life. And so we need to pray for the world and remember faith over fear always. Strength in numbers. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Maui, 10 a.m.